myself and my sister, my 3-year-old niece live with me.
For Ingham County dispatcher Amy Barajas, it was just like any other night shift at Ingham County's 911 Central Dispatch. She was assigned to East Lansing and expected an easy night until 8:18, when more than a dozen 911 calls came in at the same time.
I took one of the original 911 calls, and it was a call of a student.
And what did the student tell you?
That there was a gunman and that they had shot her friend.
She handed the phone to her partner and got on the radio, triggering the massive emergency response to an active shooter at Michigan State University.
Emmerich units, I got a shot fired, complaint at Berkey Hall, 509 East Circle. There's going to be a shooting victim. I'm trying to get further. I have a victim who's with the victim online, on the phone.
It was the beginning of a long night and a lot of coordination.
Yeah, all I have so far is that there's a shooter in the hallway, multiple people shot in dorm room or in classroom 114.
A lot of it, I can't remember. I just remember doing the initial, getting units out there. I had my partners asking if they wanted other departments, and I said, send everyone we got until we know for sure what's going on.
It would take hours to get a handle on what was going on. During that time, it was Amy Barajas' calm voice coordinating the response in a race to get help for the victims and catch the shooter.
Towards the Union Building westbound, do we have a description?
For these officers out there, they don't know what they're going out to. They don't know what's out there. They didn't know where the gunman was. My voice was a lifeline for them.
Barajas was part of a team fielding the 911 calls.
I can't imagine the ones who had to take my coworkers who took those 911 calls all night long. I took one of them and I still hear the screaming. I can't imagine the ones that they took of people, begging to stay on the line with them.
911 Director Barbara Davidson said she never felt so helpless.
They're so scared, and they've got you on the phone. It's somebody they can talk to that can maybe help them, and you can't stay on the phone with them. You just can't. There were so many other calls coming in. We had to say goodbye. That was very hard to do.
Yeah, you're going to need multiple ambulances.
10-4, we're getting them started from all over. Go.
On a typical night here at the Ingham County 911 Dispatch Center, there's about 10 people taking calls and a supervisor on duty. The night of the mass shooting, there was more than 20 people here, fielding some 2,200 phone calls and more than 240 911 texts.
People were calling like, oh, we see 3 people with long guns, and what they didn't realize that it was officers who came from home.
She was trusting him that he really didn't have an agenda. She thought, oh, he must be a good person.
That sounds like Paige.
But Lisa says the moment quickly took a violent turn when the man grabbed Paige and forced her into his truck.
Because he kept on holding her wrists back and telling her to shut up, and she's like, no, I'll have my voice heard.
Wow.
Because she was fearless. She just...
Yeah.
Lisa says the pair stopped at this gas station before heading north on Fowlerville Road.
Other people saw, too, when they were back at the restaurant. But, like they keep telling me, the police didn't follow up.
Investigators say they have followed up on every tip and even used psychics and paranormal investigators.
I'm a very evidence-minded person, and that's what we look at, is we look for the evidence to either lead to a suspect or to exonerate a suspect, and we don't have any of that in this case. I think there's like 100-some pieces in here.
Sergeant Matt Young is among 3 investigators on the Livingston County cold case team.
Do you think that it was investigated properly?
Knowing what they knew in 1990, I would say that it was an abandoned vehicle, nothing more than that.
That abandoned vehicle sat for several hours with the motor running before detectives realized Paige was missing. Witnesses reported seeing her on the side of the road, talking to an African-American man, or maybe 3, and a maroon van parked behind her.
And that she was on the outside of her vehicle talking to this individual, and at one point had her hands kind of up in the air, making some sort of expression with her arms.
22 sets of fingerprints were lifted off of Paige's car. None matched any in the police database. And with no sign of a struggle in the car, all detectives have is Paige's personal property left behind. Her purse, her ID, even the shoes she wore that day. They're among 4 boxes full of clues sitting in a cold case storage room. This is the first time detectives have opened the evidence in Paige's case for us to see. A time capsule and a chilling reminder of an unsolved mystery.
So what's it going to take to solve this case?
It's going to take somebody coming forward. It's either going to take a deathbed confession from the suspect, or it's going to take somebody who is close to the suspect to come forward and say, this is where she's at.
Dr. Zach Goldstein tapped into every resource he could find to help Eli. The pair shared a lot of the same interests, among them hiking and the great outdoors.
Yeah, that's him and Huna.
Goldstein was in the process of becoming Eli's legal guardian.
He certainly loved his jerseys.
They were just about to move into a new home when Eli died. His bedroom, all set up for a new start, remains untouched.
You can really feel his presence here, because this is where he'd want to be.
Eli Fleetwood may be gone, but his legacy is very much alive in Eli's project. The new foundation that bears his name is bringing people together with family-friendly events to start a tough conversation and connect families with help.
I'm excited for the landscape to change where parents can feel, really supported in, their children's mental health struggles.
Within seconds of the attack, students in room 114 of Berkey Hall worked together to protect each other.
Maybe that was a little foolish of me to assume that he wouldn't come back or what was going on, but in my head I thought that's what needed to be done. I needed to get up and assess what was going on.
He says what was going on was scary and surreal. The professor and other students holding 2 doors closed while others called 911.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
Berkey Hall, Michigan State University. There's a shooting. Room 114.
Room 114?
Yes.
Okay, how many people have been shot?
I don't know.
One of the students who was sitting in the back row, who had been shot actually, had sprinted forward up to the front of the room. And when I walked over to assist with the door, I actually noticed that he was shot in the back. So in seeing that, I'm first aid certified, which thank God. I had ripped off my shirt and applied it to his wound as a form of bandage to stop the bleeding.
He ran to help open the windows so others could escape and noticed more shooting victims.
There was this one gentleman in the middle who had been shot, I believe in the stomach or abdomen area, and he was crying out for help.
As the parent of a student athlete who took his own life, the doctor knows a child that looks healthy on the outside may not be healthy on the inside. He wants the sports physical to include a couple of questions about mental health.
It just has to be something simple to get the kid talking about mental health. So, any concerns about, hurting yourself or others, any concerns about, nervousness, anxiety.
Mark Ewell is the executive director of the MHSAA, which governs high school sports. He says mental health was becoming a priority before the pandemic, and it's now front and center. All high school coaches are now required to get preseason training about mental health.
And it's not so much we want coaches to step in and try and fix the problem, but it's all about who do you refer that young person to.
The other part of the equation is this form. The parent fills out the medical history. A doctor performs a physical examination and gives the student clearance to play. The MHSAA evaluates this form every 3 years with a committee of experts. After the pandemic, they added an expert in mental health.
We're not just going to talk about sudden cardiac issues, or we're not just going to talk about concussion issues. That part of every single meeting of that group, there's now mental health issues that are woven into almost everything that gets discussed.